Hello all, a Knife Stout here. We're bringing you a nice summary of a knife I've done a review on. If you prefer to see the full review, the review will be linked in the description. I do hope that you're having a good day before we go any further. And this is the Kizer Tomb. I wonder why it's called that with these coffin-shaped handle. So, this is a relatively small knife, though it feels full-size due to how much actual handle and grip placement you get. The blade length is only like 2 inches and a little over 5/8, so maybe like 2.6 inches. A blade length, or cutting length, edge length, you have about 3 1/8 of blade length itself, and 7 5/8 overall. I'm not going to go into more details than that. Again, this is the summary, which is more of a highlights reel. Drop point blade, thin blade stock, good geometry. This one has PVD coating. There are other coatings, but they have different handle materials. It is in Nitro V. The name's right there for some reason. The designer's logo also right there, though the designer is Bradley Diaz, so I'm assuming that's like a company name or something, or his maker's mark or whatever. I mean, it's obviously his maker's mark, but it's not a B or a D. So yeah. This knife is on bearings. It is technically front flipper only, but it's a button lock, so you can always just use the button lock. And honestly, this is probably the best actuation method for this knife. It's satisfying, and it works well. It makes some interesting acoustics, partially due to one of the other features of this knife, and that is the skeleton-shaped skeletonization on both liners, which had to be matched up, and they did a pretty good job of that. It seems to go through pretty clear that there's a skeleton in here. Now, there are variants of this knife that don't, as I said, have the same handle material that you cannot see through. And I get doing 1 or 2 of those for those who don't want to see the skeleton, but for me, it's kind of part of the point of the knife, so I had to grab the one that you can see through. The only one, which is the PEI plastic handle and black plate. There is aluminum, wood, and G10 variants. Obviously can't see through them. I think they do well with just a plain Lexan variant, which is usually a clear plastic. But that's for the future. Right now, if you want to see the skeleton, which is part of my point and something I get enjoyment out of with this knife, you gotta go with this, unfortunately. I will say they did a very good job on the plastic. Chamfers are nice and soft and rounded. It's got texture on it that's actually really, really nice and soft and really offers up a little bit of, I guess, yeah, kind of offers up a little bit of grip, but it's some tactility and it's nice. Plunge grind is good, far away from, and you got a nice sharpening drawer back here, and they brought the plunge grind out. It looks like it goes out really far, and I think that's a good thing, because if they left it here, the steel might have been too thin and might have been uncomfortable. But the way they did it, it works well. Big old forward choil. And I tend to even be a little bit away from that forward choil and that nub, which I appreciate the nub just being there because the nub's always the good thing. They always make things better. The nub means that your stop pins are not going to be hitting the edge, even though that stop pin hits back here and isn't a problem on this knife. It's usually a good thing when there's a nub. And I like saying nub. You can also hold it back here if you want full reach, but drop point blade, good access to the tip. You have a lot of jimping out here. Jimping's kind of worthless. That's one of the only bad things about this knife. The jimping does not offer much in the way of actual grip. Like it doesn't really grab you very well. It does go all the way around, and the front flipper works despite that. You have a ton of access to the front flipper, so you want to go low because you can definitely slip off high, but because you're basically pushing into it so low, you're just basically pushing into the steel. So, I mean, maybe it offers a little bit of benefit, but for the most part, it's how much access you have to the front flipper that's better than the jimping. Before we go any further, I want to mention that you have to be pretty low on this knife due to the low position of the pivot, or more central position of the pivot. You basically have to be below this angle change right here in the scales, because if you're up above there, yeah, the front flipper is long, and you have to be about there for it to really pass you. Not hard, but it is something to get used to, and it is a higher front flipper than maybe a lot of people might be used to, so if they don't like front flippers, this is not going to help them, probably. something just to be aware of. As I said, I actually don't go up all the way. I tend to press in the middle, and it works just fine. It's kind of... It exacerbates some problem with the jimping and the placement, and could make front flippers a little bit trickier for some, but at the same time, because you're getting so much access, it's good in other ways. It's a give and take system, right? It is on bearings. It is drop shut with the button. This particular one is, yep, it's still centered. No play. Very nice job there. But the front flipper is just something that you want to be aware of. That said, I've already mentioned that the button is probably just the best way to actuate this knife. I have done a few spine whacks, and while there's a tiny bit of stick, it's more like a grab. It's really quite good and well executed, and there's no disengagement. I have given it a few shots. So overall, everything's been executed well. It's just the placement is something that you have to get used to. The ergos are, despite being straight and seeming like angled, actually very comfortable in every grip, as far as I'm concerned. Very nice there. You've got T8 pivot, T8 body screw. I think this is T8 under there too. I'm pretty sure it is. So T8 all around. Handle is very straightforward, though it is a coffin and allows you to see through, which makes this fun. More fun. Pocket clip, basic, folded budget deep carry clip. I don't know why so many companies insist on putting a bit of a flat at the end of their clips. Maybe they've done the research and run the numbers or something, and that actually is beneficial in some way that I'm not thinking of, but I still think cutting it shorter and just maybe having just a slight turn here to soften the edge and a continuous rise is usually the better option. But this does work. It's got pretty good retention and pretty good flex. The screws are inset, though the clip itself is not. I don't mind that as long as the screws are flat. It is not, however, reversible. Sorry, lefties. Even though this is a very reversible sort of ambidextrous locking style, the clip is not reversible, so it's not really meant to be used in the left hand or carried left-handed. But I think that is for the better. It's a good decision that they were made. Because of the central low location of the button, when I grab this, I am unequivocally on that button. And though the pads in my hands are not particularly calloused, my hands don't callus very well. You see kind of what happens to the callus. They tend to crack and stuff like that. But different hand shapes and everything like that, yeah. I think with a callus or big hands or just a certain grip position, even if I'm really gripping on this thing, can get just the tiniest bit of wiggle out of it. It's not disengaging. I'm not worried about it disengaging, but I imagine for some it could be a problem. And so for safety, I think not giving you a left-handed position clip was the right move here, unfortunately for left-handed people. It also keeps the front a little cleaner. You'd have, holes there. But overall, I think it was the right decision, even if it is not necessarily as intuitive. So I think it's worth mentioning because I'm sure someone's going to see this and say immediately, hey, why doesn't this have ambidextrous hole positions, right? There might be a reason for it. Despite my complaints with the front flipper, you can do all of the usual stuff. Though I do think it's best to come at it kind of slightly from the side of your finger and not as straightforward. You can do it, but it's a little less comfortable. It's really easy just to do that. But takes some getting used to. Overall, this thing comes in well under the budget territory. Well, not well under. It's like $69 or something like that. If I remember correctly. Maybe it's even less. Who knows? Either way, it doesn't matter. It's in the budget territory. And I think it's a really good knife for that. It's also doing something other than just being straightforward knife, right? And there is value in that, especially for me as someone collecting and enthused by knives. there is definite value in seeing something that's doing something different and is interesting and keeps things fresh. So for that alone, I can appreciate this. But keeping it also in the budgetary territory is a nice little benefit. So that's all for the Kizer Tomb, or at least for the summary of the Kizer Tomb. I really do like this thing, and Kizer, as usual, is doing some pretty good work. I'm going to end things here and say thank you for watching. Consider liking and subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next one.